And we're back. Somebody give me a thumbs up if you can hear me.
You're good. Okay. Looks good. Hey, everybody. Looks good. Okay.
See. Thank you to ScrewTube.
Love you.
Yeah, love you. YouTube hates me. I hate it back. Okay. We're back to being live again. I do not understand the technical issues here, but all right. But it seems now every time we go live, the computer or YouTube does not recognize my microphone, and I have to go through this whole big circus act just to be able to get it to do what it's supposed to every time. Anyways, we're here. Hello. Thank you for joining us. My Lord. All right, let's begin. For starters, it is Monday, April 28th, 7:19 p.m. That's 1928 for all of you civilians out there. We're going to go over some of the news that's happening, some of the things that I think you may want to be paying attention to. And we'll end it with crying out to the Lord. So here in just a couple days, we have our Shoot, Move, Communicate course that's happening in Telco Plains. And then we'll be taking a break for a minute from training, coming back, reassessing how we want to plan out the rest of the year. Please be paying attention to the Vindicta Solutions website if you want to look into further training. I know many of you have reached out to me recently about upcoming training. Check the website, check our YouTube channels, both AmericanVindicta and Vindicta Solutions. Will be updating from there. A lot of heat is going on in Pakistan and India. I'll read to you the latest thing that was just put out. Reason why this matters is because both of these are nuclear powers. One is our enemy. One likes to harbor our enemies. So let's hear from them. By the way, I do not speak these languages, so I'm going to butcher every single person's name. Whatever. Pakistan will be divided into 4 parts by 2025. The one of the premiers, Nishikant Dubey, said that he's a member of India's parliament. He said that Pakistan will cease to exist as a country by the end of 2025. We will get back the part of Kashmir that Pakistan occupied. In addition, Pakistan will be divided into separate countries. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will ensure of this. Earlier in Islamabad, reported that war was inevitable and called for restraining from using nuclear weapons. Both India and Pakistan have been bringing in reserves of military attachments, so their ground forces, their surface-to-air missile forces, a lot of tracked units, a lot of troop carrier units. I saw one where they're a whole train full of artillery units are being brought in, self-propelled artillery. So they've been having sporadic clashes erupting here and there throughout these areas where they are legitimately shooting at each other. Clashes that were recently involving artillery between India and Pakistan forces have been reported in the Lipa Valley. That's the area along the current line of control. The line of control is a demarcation line between India and Pakistan, running through the former princely state of Jammu and Kashmir, the de facto border between the two countries. The clouds of war are gathering over the region, with tensions between Pakistan and India reaching an alarming level. A war could potentially break out between the two countries within next 2 to 4 days, so within the next 48 to 96 hours, open source intel that is all over right now is saying that there is a very high likely chance war is going to kick off. Now, this one is coming from Khawaja Asif, who is Pakistan's defense minister. And he's the one who said a war could potentially break out within the next 48 to 96 hours. If hostilities erupt, Pakistan would respond with a full force. Many voices within India itself are questioning President Modi's intentions, suggesting that the incident was orchestrated for political gain. A couple things. For one, this area is friendly not just to America, India, but we do have assets. I mean, we used to have a big CIA compound that I'm pretty sure is still up and going in Pakistan. Russia is friendly with both Pakistan and also India. So we'll see how this goes. Israel recently said that they would throw down and come and help India. So that is very interesting. Israel is trying to pick a fight in literally every direction. A massive blackout happened across Spain. The metro, factories, communication networks, airports, road infrastructure were all left without electricity. As a result, the country experienced a transportation collapse. If you've seen it in the videos, that's ridiculous. Similar problems were observed in the neighboring countries of France, Portugal, and Andorra. The exact cause was not specified, but local energy operators officially attributed the failure to a rare atmospheric phenomenon. The reality, however, seems to be much different. Such a total blackout could have occurred due to improper operation of the emergency automation and initial design flaws in the system. There's also a lot of rumors running around that this might actually be a form of a cyber attack that caused this, but it's unfounded right now. Possibly there was a failure at the nuclear plant, and then everything went into waves due to frequency fluctuations, that the existing capacities were unable to be stabilized, including those built in Europe as part of the green transition. In a video that I was seeing, apparently Spain is going further and further away from fossil fuels and nuclear power, and more into wind, water, solar. And these things, once the nuclear plant went down, were absolutely unable to handle the amount of power that it was pulling from the grid. This example clearly shows the difference in approaches to a power system that was designed. The Ukrainian power grid, created during the Soviet era, despite all the losses and all the damages, withstood dozens of massive airstrikes. In Spain, everything collapsed from a single failure without a single impact. It is possible that if the energy facilities were subjected to a real attack, the region could have plunged into a pre-industrial era. Interestingly, due to the affairs in other parts of Western Europe, coincidentally, they may be facing the same thing. So, just talking about the energy thing real quick, the more the West tries to go the new Green Deal, the more fractured and fragile our electric grids get. Now, Europe, they're gung-ho on this. And as we can see just from what happened with Spain, Portugal, parts of France, the system that they've created cannot handle the load that's on it. And still, it's in the books to tear down more of the coal-powered plants, to demill some of the nuclear power plants, So eventually, if the wind blows too hard, Europe will just lose power. A lot of us sit back, we may just kind of roll our eyes at this. But this type of example happened, what, in Argentina just a couple weeks ago. It's happened in places like Puerto Rico. It's happened in places like Cuba. Cuba has lost power consistently. And you got to think about, if you're there, if you're a civilian living there, what are you going to do when you lose absolute power? You have no ability to turn your lights on, no clean running water. For some people, no way to actually even cook food. The medical facilities will face an enormous challenge, especially those that are healthcare facilities, retirement homes, nursing homes, places where there's life-sustaining medical equipment that's got to stay plugged in that wall as long as there's energy going to it. So these are just some examples right now of one of the many reasons why I harp on the grid so much, and why I try to tell people all the time, do not count on your government to fix the problem instantly. The problem's not always fixed with just the throw of a fuse. You got to be thinking about the possibility that you could lose power for an extensive duration of time. If you're from the South, like where I'm from, in Hurricane Alley, in the Gulf of Mexico, which is now the Gulf of, America, should be the Gulf of Texas, to be honest with you, but that's neither here nor there. But we were very, very used to losing power from tornadoes, floods, brownouts, hurricanes. But we've always had the ability, because we have such great people that are here working in the energy grid sector, the linemen, who immediately get out there, risk their lives to restore power and some sort of normality. When that goes away, when you don't have that asset, everything changes overnight. America has 1 week worth of bottled water. This entire country moves upon railroad deliveries, and I think about 80% is from trucker deliveries for any of your goods, any of your medicines, your spare parts, all that. Like, I think like maybe 5% of it comes from the air, but then eventually someone's got to go pick it up. So in looking forward into this, we're going to be reaching out to a couple different companies, and we're going to try and see what is some of the most practical ways for people during a sustained loss of power. What's the most practical way to survive it? What are things that you should be thinking about potentially purchasing? Now, I don't sell anything. I don't talk about any of my sponsors, which they probably hate me for that. But that's just the way we roll and operate here. You've got to make sure at all times you can take care of yourself, right? So that's one of the assets that you need to be covering in your life. Once again, I don't plan on the government to do that for me. That's why we've got our little hoard of medicine and all these other things that we need in case the power goes out. But we also have, I think, three wood burning stoves, so we can cook on them. We can provide heat inside the house. We've got propane for the oven. You need to consider these things, all right? Before everything goes down the toilet, which apparently that's the only direction this is going, do your due diligence to save up whatever you can to purchase the necessary items. I'm not telling you don't go overboard. I'm not telling you don't do the bare minimum. I'm saying be smart with your money, afford what you can, think wisely. If you have any questions about this, hey, Doug, what are some of the things that you would get? What are the things that you're looking at potentially buying? You can email us at AmericanVindicta at gmail.com. I will get back to you. If you've ever emailed us, you know for a fact that typically we get back to 99% of all people, unless I've just missed your email or you just love to hate me and love to email to tell me how much you hate me. And even still, we respond to those people. All right, moving on. All right, the mother and son who helped to expose the extermination camp in Jalisco, Mexico, have been murdered. A couple weeks ago, there was in Jalisco, Mexico, there was a compound, more or less, that was found that had industrial size crematories in it. Potentially hundreds to thousands of people, Mexican citizens that have been fed into these things. And this is all because the narco-terrorist state that is Mexico and the cartels. So this is an article right here about it. 2 Mexican activists who publicized a grisly extermination camp linked to an organized crime were killed on Wednesday in Jalisco, according to Mexican authorities and the advocacy organization they were affiliated with. The victims are Maria del Carmen Morales. She was 43. And her son, Jaime Daniel Ramirez Morales, who was 26, both activists for the rights of missing people in Mexico. In March, her group, Warrior Searchers of Jalisco, a group dedicated to finding missing people, announced the discovery of the Izaguar Ranch, a site with secret crematoriums and buried human remains. By buried, I mean it's mass graves. The group labeled it an extermination camp where criminals lured prospective recruits and held them against their will, though Mexican authorities have not used that term when discussing the property. So let's discuss this part real quick. The cartels are kidnapping people and are bringing them to this location and training them. And if they either fail in their training or they try to flee or whatever reason, they have given them a reason, they're mass executing people. This is our neighbor. This is our southern neighbor. And these things happen on a daily basis. It goes under the radar until, finally a group will come out and say, hey, we dared to have went and searched and found it. And now we dare to talk about it. And unfortunately, this is the reality of dealing with the narco-terrorist state. Guys, I don't know how to say this any more clear than what I've been saying to y'all. We have an eventual war coming to America. The cartels will most likely be a part of it. They're already in this country. They terrorize millions of people every year. It seems like this administration is trying to do their best to do something about it, but you will never completely purge us of this until you take on this fight head on. I don't know if any government will ever do it. Right now, I'm like 2080 on thinking that maybe the Trump administration will do something about it. So until something militarily is done to rid us of this problem, you should be considering, you should be praying about it, you should be prepping, and you should be training for the reality that is a violent interaction with cartel terrorists here in America. I feel so bad for these people that this happened to them. Because one of the reasons why is you have, like, I've got a heart for the people. You've got people who are out here trying to do the right thing, trying to help out the civilians, trying to bring closure to families who have missing loved ones. And then, just like that, they're gone. This is a similar thing that's happened in Ukraine. I'm sure many of you have seen the videos of people just in broad daylight. A Ukrainian military van or truck will pull out with Ukrainian military guys, and they'll snatch a random man off the street and force him into their military, send them to the front line where they die. If you don't think that can't happen here in America, if you don't think that is a potential, though it's happening literally on our southern border, and one of the main fights that we're funding right now, this is being involved in. I don't know, man. I pray it doesn't happen, but I expect it will. I absolutely 100% expect that we will have a civil war. I have no idea when it's going to happen, but this type of action, I wouldn't be surprised if it happened here in these 50 states. Donald Trump says that there are loopholes that have been discussed for a third-term presidential run. It's coming from MSN, the worst of the mainstream media. He says, I have more people begging me to run again, but I haven't looked at even the possibility. He hasn't looked at even the possibility, but yet he's selling a hat on his website for 2028. There's been multiple articles about it, and he's done 2 interviews talking about it. This guy talks out of both sides of his mouth. President Donald Trump addressed his recent claim that he is, quote, not joking about running for a third term in a new interim with Time magazine that was published on April 25th. Trump doubled down on his claim that there are methods of bypassing the Constitution, telling Time magazine that loopholes have been discussed, though he does not believe in using them. Then why talk about it? When asked whether he would use one of the most well-known loopholes, running as vice president to J.D. Vance, who would later resign if elected, Trump dodged the question, instead taking the time to brag once again about his cognitive test results. One thing that's currently being discussed, it was at the White House press briefing that I was listening to earlier today, and you too can go and listen to it. It has Tom Homan, and him and the press secretary are talking about it. But apparently now there are conversations. I don't know to the extent of the complete validity of it, and I don't know how serious they are about it. But apparently the Trump administration may be considering suspending Article 1, Section 9 of habeas corpus due to traitors and enemy combatants that are here in America. Traitors would be, I guess, like the 2 federal judges who were recently arrested by the FBI, which, me personally, I have no issues with that. I think that's the legal way to go, and I think it should be done. And by the way, will please somebody go and pay attention to Portland, Oregon, and start there. But with the suspension of habeas corpus, that means that American troops would be deployed here in America in a combat operation role. To what extent that would be, what would they be doing? Would they just be assisting ICE in their operations for removing illegal aliens? I don't know. But I am very aware, and I do understand that there are so many terror cells that are here in America that either the government is monitoring or has caught wind of or is expecting to be here. And we're all talking about this big potential 2025 terror attack, another 9/11 style attack that would be worse than 9/11. And now the conversation of suspending habeas corpus comes about. So I'll let you take that train of thought, run it to the end of its logical conclusion, be objective, and tell me your thoughts. Do you think suspending habeas corpus to fight terror cells, violent crime, and illegal immigrants is worth it? Or do you think it should just continue to be a policing operation and we should just actually arrest everybody? What a train of thought that is. Or do you think that there should not be a suspension of habeas corpus? I mean, I'm honestly 50-50 on it. If you suspend habeas corpus, That is a slippery slope, because if you can do it once, you can do it twice. It's happened a few times here in America. I believe what they're talking about is not, activating the National Guard. It's using active duty troops. So that could be very interesting. And that could be very, very risky if that actually were to occur. All right, a 24-year-old man and 6 others were 24-year-old man killed, 6 others injured in a senseless shooting at North Carolina College, another mass shooting. 1 man has died and 6 others have been injured after a shooting at the Elizabeth City State University's campus in North Carolina in the early hours of Sunday, April 27th. That was it yesterday. In a statement, the university announced that the incident occurred at the campus center following the Yard Fest, the final event of the historically Black university's week-long Viking Fest celebration. Interesting to say those two things in one sentence. 6 individuals were injured during the incident. 4 sustained gunshot wounds, including the ECSU students. Additionally, 2 other ECSU students were harmed as well during it. A 24-year-old man who was not a university student was pronounced deceased on the scene. His identity is being withheld, pending notification of his next kin. So I have no idea if this is something that's drug-related, gang-related, or if this is a lone wolf attacker, or if this is a terror attack. We'll just have to wait and see. But if you are a college student, if you're a university student, let's see if I got it right here. These are 2 very simple things that don't cost a lot of money. You can put them in your car. They're not exactly what I would want to use, but I spend top dollar for all of my medical gear. I got these at Academy the other day. I keep stuff like this in our cars. This is Life Gear First Aid Survival Quick Grab Kit. It's got all your regular Band-Aids and different types of bandages, trauma pads, first aid tape, triple antibiotic ointment in case you scrape your knuckle or something. But this little trauma pack from Quick Clot is something that I think it costs $20. Very easy to be able to put, somewhere in your bag. Something that you could actually keep in a backpack. Something you should probably keep in your car. It's got Quick Clot gauze, trauma pad, some gloves in it, duct tape, triangular bandage, sterile gauzing, conforming gauze, bandage, antiseptic white, and trauma response instructions. So once again, it doesn't have a tourniquet in it, but you pair something like this with a tourniquet, and at least you got something. Myrtle Beach, Florida had a mass shooting on April 27th, yesterday. Shooting happened in the middle of the city's famed entertainment district as peak tourism season is ramping up. Let's see. 1 dead, 11 wounded. So 1 person is dead, 11 others are wounded after a gunman opened fire in the middle of a popular tourist spot in Myrtle Beach on Saturday night, according to law enforcement. Myrtle Beach Police Department shared that the shooting happened just before midnight on Saturday in the heart of the city's famed entertainment district. This is when officers noticed a disturbance involving multiple individuals. At the time, based on the immediate threat, one of our officers responded by discharging the firearm. I guess that's how the shooter got stopped. Yep, the individual shot during the officer's response died from his injuries. Florida don't joke around. If you try to hurt somebody in Florida, their police are not going to be very happy with you. Quote, our officer saw what happened, and when he saw that an altercation was taking place and a gun was being shot, the officer responded very quickly and, in my opinion, saved lives. So, once again, it doesn't seem to be a active shooter. It's not a lone wolf gunman. It's not a terror attack. It's just a random guy with a gun gets in an altercation. I can only imagine alcohol's involved, and then pulls his gun. So these are some of the things that we try to teach people about using situational awareness, how to find your outs, how to find your hard cover areas, what to do if you're within close proximity to it, how to apply emergency aid to yourself and to others. You know, it's tragic to hear about these shootings, but in law enforcement, we know that the warmer it gets, the more shootings happen. The warmer it gets, the more the crazies come out. So me personally, I'm already kind of expecting this summer to be kind of chaotic. We'll read some stuff about what the left is planning here in just a few days and potentially throughout the rest of the year. Be expecting for a turbulent year. Just in case you didn't know this, in March on the 22nd, there was another mass shooting where 3 died and 15 were injured in New Mexico. So I mean, this stuff is it's not cooling down anytime soon, guys. Be prepared. All right, let's hit up our favorite gunviolencearchive.org. We'll read the stats going on so far this year in regards to gun violence. Homicide, murder, unintentional murder. Right now, there's been 4,511 murders this year. Total number of injuries is 7,769. This is all from gun violence. There's been 89 mass shootings this year so far. How many of those have you heard of? So, by the way, the Department of Justice, FBI, and the CDC look at mass shootings as it is 3 people or more, and they describe that to be a mass shooting. Most of the mass shootings happen on the eastern seaboard. So, I mean, literally, you go from Dallas, Fort Worth, Texas, all the way to Maine, and that's where the majority of mass shootings happen. One of the one of the places with the least amount of mass shootings is Wyoming, and then I think next is South Dakota, and then there's actually been kind of a little bit of a crime spree happening in Montana. Montana used to be a pretty safe place. But yeah, there's like 2 kind of safe states in America at this point in time, however you would want to consider that. So there's been 89 mass shootings this year. There's been 3 mass murders. 77 children have been killed from mass shooting. 134 have been injured. 301 have been teenagers that were killed. 793 teenagers that have been injured. That's between the ages of 12 and 17. Officer involved incidents this year, it's been 21 deaths. Officer that was killed or injured has been 111. That is not good. Officer involved incident where and 21 officers, excuse me, have been killed this year. 111 injured. Officer involved incident where the subject was killed, 450. Subject, suspect killed or injured. We'll just say more injured has been 295. There's been 368 different accounts of defensive uses for people who are carrying firearms. There's been 427 unintentional shootings or negligent discharge, and 196 murders that are also suicide. So, 2 things here. Defensive use this year, there's been 368 people who have used a gun to save their life or potentially others. 427 people have either accidentally shot themselves shot someone else or shot their gun and gotten a buttload of trouble for it. Proper handling of firearms. It can never be shouted high enough from the top of the mountain. Know how to use your guns. Know how to fix malfunctions. Please understand basic fundamentals of marksmanship and actually go out and seek the guys who are going to train you for that. We train people for that, but if you can find someone in your local area and it's easier to afford, and instead of traveling, then go to them. Get your medical training, because you're more than likely going to put a pressure bandage or a tourniquet on somebody than you ever will pull your gun. But I'm not saying that you won't ever. So learn how to apply medical aid, learn how to use your firearm correctly in a defensive manner, and also learn the laws of what will happen after you've discharged a firearm. You're going to get arrested. They're going to take your gun. That's when you'll be given the time to, talk to your attorney. You will most likely be taken into either the county jail or city jail. You'll be processed. You'll have to make bail. All these things will happen while you're still trying to do the right thing. So I say carry some sort of gun insurance. There's so many different ones out there, and so many of them are pointing fingers at each other as who's the bad guy, who's the good group. Choose whichever one you can afford. At least have some sort of representation. I used to have USCCA, so I don't anymore. I'm probably going to someone else, but I'll let you know when I do it. If you are law enforcement, security, church security, you want to know where I'm getting this information from, it is gunviolencearchive.org. All right, moving on to more pressing things. Let's talk about what the leftists plan on doing soon. We were approaching Mayday, the International Day of Hoodlumism. Mayday demonstrations signal far left resurgence. This is coming from the Gray Zone Research. Quote, there's not going to be an election in 2028 if we don't win this fight right now. This report's from Mike Shelby. Democrat politicians and progressive activists ramped up calls for escalation against Donald Trump's administration policies. Following Senator Chris Murphy from Connecticut last month, other Democrats have called for mass mobilization protests against the administration. So mass protests against the administration means they are going to shut down roads, shut down bridges. They are going to interrupt traffic. They are going to be targeting, most likely, immigration custom enforcement facilities or any type of ICE detention holdover facility. They'll be protesting the government, protesting the police, and anyone else that just happens to get on their radar. Last month, Senator Murphy called on Democrat leadership to take greater risk to encourage rank-and-file activists to do the same. He called for greater risk for the rank-and-file activists to do the same. Well, last time I heard something about that, it was 2020 and the George Floyd riots. Me personally, and I don't know about you, but I don't think America is ready to sit back and do nothing for another BLM protest, let alone a riotous situation where you have all different types of groups of people damaging homes, businesses, places where the government, state, local, federal are operating at. One of the things that I'm kind of watching is to see when these groups appear, do the counter protesters appear still? In 2020, the only reason why I always bring this up is because when we were talking to the White House and they were, talking to us during these operations, we're getting the feedback from our command. Our command is talking to police chiefs and police departments literally around the world. And many of them came to see what type of policing operation we were doing in Portland, because it was one of the only ways that we were effective against the tactics of Antifa. I don't know if we're still going to do those types of things. No idea. Not in the government no more. But all I can tell you is for a year straight, you had local mayors, your local government, and many different state governments who stood back, did nothing, restrained law enforcement. Innocent people were killed, many were hurt, businesses were destroyed, and you had these big billion-dollar businesses that bring a lot of money into your area, vacated that area, and left a big hole. So I don't know how that's going to go on. Again, that happened under Trump's administration. I don't know if we'll see a heavy-handed approach. Once again, I'm biased. I believe in a heavy-hand approach. If I see the fly, hit it with the sledgehammer. Mainly just because we should not be allowing our people to be terrorized in this country. Leftist, terrorists, people that are right-wing extremism. I do not care. An extremist is an extremist. It needs to be handled promptly, quickly, and we need to do our best to try and not to let that happen again. How many more churches have to be attacked in Canada? Look at what was there, like 50 churches that burnt down in Canada? So, I mean, this is it's interesting. We have Democrats who are literally calling on these protests, and we know it's going to end up in fire. It'll be another peaceful protest where everything's on fire behind the cameraman. So listen to this quote. I will admit that this is a conversation happening inside the Democratic Party right now as to whether you engage in sort of normal tactics or whether you have to engage in exceptional ways. I love how they just use these words, exceptional ways. I think it's very likely you're going to need hundreds of thousands of people engaged in mass scale mobilization. I'm going to argue that we should engage in exceptional tactics because to me, that is the only way that you ultimately create the connective tissue between the leaders of the party and the grassroots. When that moment comes, that we need everybody out on the street. And once again, this is Senator Murphy, who told a crowd of supporters in North Carolina over that weekend that there's not going to be an election in 2028 if we don't win this fight right now. What fight? What fight's happening? I don't understand what fight's going on. But you've got part of the Democratic Party who literally wants to have a domestic war, a civil uprising, a potential civil war, just to oust Donald Trump. Or is this just, once again, smoke and mirrors? Both sides of the coin are being flipped and being used, and we, the people, are thrown into the midst of this again. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker, Democrat, also called for mass mobilization protests and disruption against the Trump administration during a speech to New Hampshire Democrats on Sunday night. Meanwhile, progressive organizers say that they've scheduled over 900 protests and demonstrations for Mayday. 900 that are known to be happening, which means you'll probably have another 500 or more that are spontaneous. Most events are slated for Thursday, May 1st. So that's just a couple days from now. Thursday, May 1st, if you are in a downtown big city, or you're in a college town, or you're near an ICE immigration facility, you need to be keeping up situational awareness better than you probably ever have. Don't get caught in these big crowds. Here's one of the issues with this and why it kind of pees me off is that these crowds are uncontrollable, but they're controlled. They're told what to do, and then they tell the masses, this is what you're going to go do. Now, me personally, from my experiences of dealing with this, there is quite a bit of demonic presence that are in these crowds. That is the majority of the group of people who are coming out doing these things. They want violence. They yearn for violence. A lot of times they're getting paid for that violence. And people were getting thrown in the midst of it. God, I don't know how many damn protests that I went and attended in a law enforcement capacity from 2016 to 2021 before I got out, but hundreds, probably more. There's been a definite buildup that we have been seeing since 2016. You haven't really been seeing any of these mass protests recently, unless they're happening at universities, which is kind of how the system works. You know, nobody can bring typically guns out to the universities. You can't have the big counter protester group of all the vet bros and all them come out to a university and fight against them. So a university is kind of a one-off protest. But there are people being attacked. People's rights are being violated. Nobody seems to care. But the stuff that happens off those universities, the stuff that's happened amongst us, go back and just rewatch some of the stuff that happened in Seattle, happened in California, happened in Kenosha, stuff that happened in freaking Portland, Washington, D.C., New York, Philadelphia. Well, damn, Philadelphia is a war zone right now. It was growing more and more, not sporadic, but I would say orchestrated. And more, we saw the protests leave the downtown area and go into residential areas. Be careful. If you're in one of these types of areas and you start to see all these protests going on, just my suggestion, what do I know? Just a guy with some unique experiences. You should probably hide your nice cars, your nice things, and you should probably remove your Trump sign out of your front yard, or be a target, be dumb, stand there in your pride, and then call your homeowner's insurance and ask them how much is going to cost to replace, this door, this window. Call your car insurance. So yeah, my Mercedes Benz is currently on fire right now. Act wisely. Moving on. I think we all know this, but North Korea has now officially said that they are in the war supporting Russian operations. Putin has now admitted to North Koreans being there. And apparently Donald Trump and the rest of the U.S. Cabinets want to do something about it. I don't know what we can do about it. I don't know what you do about it, to be honest with you. If you go over there and you mess with that little fat man, he's going to press the button that sends a nuke. He's said it before. The guy's crazy enough to do it. I don't know exactly how you rein him in, except going to China. And we're not exactly on the best of terms with China. The mass Iranian explosion that happened over at their Benbes, I think is what it is, one of their ports. More and more information is coming out from the Iranian media and the Iranian government from the IRGC. And they're saying that they're almost fairly certain that Israel had a hand in planting explosives in some of these cargo containers or whatever that exploded. And that's what caused the huge explosion of this area. I mean, it was a fireball. If that turns out to be true, expect a lot of things to start going downhill quickly. All right, coming out of Russia, Sergei Lavrov once again outlined Russia's demands for ending military actions in Ukraine, which won't be met. Ukraine must refuse to join NATO and remain neutral. Kiev must stop legislatively and physically destroying everything Russian in Ukraine, from the language, media, culture, traditions, and the Orthodox Church. Crimea and Sevastopol, the DPR, the LPR, Kherson, and the Zaporizhia regions must be internationally recognized as Russian territory, which they're not. All sanctions against Russia must be lifted. Good luck with that. All lawsuits must be stopped. All arrest warrants must be canceled, and frozen assets must be returned. Moscow must receive reliable security guarantees against the threats created by the hostile activities of NATO, the European Union, and their individual member states on our western borders. The task of demilitarizing and denazification of Ukraine is not removed from the agenda. All obligations of Kiev under the peace agreement must be legally secured, have enforcement mechanisms, and be permanent. So I'm going to go ahead and just shoot from the hip and say nobody's going to do that. The war is going to continue. I don't have the reports pulled up in front of me. Let me see if I can find them. Netanyahu recently went off the rails and said a bunch of really interesting things. And it was literally the day after the explosion happened in Iran. It's so far back in this database, I'm not going to be able to find it. I mean, currently right now, I've got 1,109 points of data that I have to review that every time I review one thing, 100 things come in within the next 2 minutes. There's a lot of moving pieces that are happening around the world right now. I ain't seen nothing that involves peace or trying to find a peaceful resolution yet in anything. There are multiple large countries that are at war, either inside their country, that are at war with their neighbors, that are doing war exercises right now as demonstration of force, intimidation factors. God help every one of you that live in Africa. Africa is not on fire. It is sitting in the middle of a volcano right now. Oh, this is good. The Indian Navy has begun to fire multiple anti-ship missiles in the Arabian Sea as they're flanking Pakistan. No de-escalation tactics yet being applied. God, I wish I could find this information on what Netanyahu said. He really went off the rails. Netanyahu more or less came up and said, the only way we're not going to attack Iran is if they have a Libya-style surrender of all their nuclear ordinances. All nuclear processing facilities are not to be demilled, not to be shut down, not to be turned into doing something else, but they must be physically destroyed by the United States, and or they will start bombing them. He said, we've already got multiple different targets that we are fairly certain that we can hit, and we can destroy their centrifuges. And more or less, Iran can't be allowed to have a nuclear weapon because then they'll kill the Jewish state. So, yeah, happy Monday to everybody. Let's take some questions real quick. Does anybody have any questions in the live chat? I see all you guys are in there. Thank you so much for being here and supporting what we do. For those of you who are in the chat group right now, if y'all got any questions, please put it in there. I'll answer it. Try to answer it. You might have saw this on our community posts in Colorado. There was just a underground club that was busted. A couple hundred illegal migrants were seized, were arrested by ICE. I believe 12 or 13 soldiers were either working at this illegal club or they were there doing whatever. But yeah, they're going to be in a lot of trouble. There was prostitution rings that were busted at this club. Drug trafficking was busted at this club, and a whole ton of illegal weapons were also seized. Matt Dubo says, how do you feel about doing group chats on Patreon again? I'm completely up for doing group chats on Patreon. We just got to make sure we get our scheduling right. There was a point in time where at least once a month we try to get together on Patreon through a Zoom call. So if you're not a Patreon member, then sorry. But if you are a Patreon member, I think it's like a couple dollars to join. We were doing Zoom calls where we were talking about all different types of information, going over gear reviews and doing Bible study and, asking and answering general questions. I'm up for that. If you guys are up for that, give me a thumbs up. We'll start back up on it. Tyler W. says, what do you make of JB Pritzker calling for mass unrest? It's the same thing that we've been seeing from all the Democrats. They use these colloquial terms. There must be an exquisite, step forward. They use every type of word to mask violence and intimidation because they know with this administration, most likely you say stuff like that, you're going to get a knock on the door from the FBI, as you should, especially being a politician. But I would say believe them. Believe them. That's what they do. These people love to sit here and they love to stir up the people constantly. Could you go over the talk of hospital attacks in the U.S.? So Callie just asked that question. Callie, if you go over to our community post section, you'll see in one of the latest Iron Squirrel domestic income reports. If it's not the latest one, it's the one right underneath that. Just keep scrolling down. You'll see it. There'll be a link to that assessment from Command 11 talking about all that. And they do a much better job on that threat assessment than what I do. So I would just tell you to go and see that. It's on our community post page. Blind Illuminati says, I'm a single woman in my 50s. I'm trained to be a gray man. Your advice to me to be able to navigate daily life. My advice to navigating daily life, don't run around like Chicken Little saying the sky is falling. Use common sense and just be careful. You can't trust anybody anymore. If you're pulling in a Walmart before you put your car, completely in park or turn it off and get out, look forward, left, right, and behind you. Don't be on your phone when you go into a store. Don't be on your phone when you're going from car to inside store. And when you're going from inside store back out to your car and loading your groceries, be watching your back at all times, especially if you're a single mother. If you got your kids, my Lord, one of the worst violent encounters I heard was last year. There was a woman who, I believe it was a baby boy. A toddler was in the basket. The mother's unloading groceries into her SUV. Random woman. It was a black woman. I don't know what type of mental disorder she has, but she's got plenty. But she just walked straight up to that baby and started stabbing it. There's a reason why we push our training so hard. For me personally, I think every single person in America, once you become an adult, you should go through some sort of defensive pistol, defensive rifle, defensive hand-to-hand technique course. Learn how to protect yourself. Learn how to be able to fight someone off you and survive the day. Um, your chances of just turning around and becoming Superman in front of the person who's trying to fight you is basically zero. You'll always fall back on your last bit of training, and if you've never had any training, then you'll do whatever you have to survive. But it is getting much more dangerous out there. I fear for my wife every time I leave and I go to put on any of these trainings, or I go somewhere, because you just never know when X day happens. What's your plan on getting back home? Do you carry a bug out bag in your vehicle? Do you carry a gun and multiple magazines? Do you carry fresh water? Do you carry multiple shoes? My little Forerunner is, for the most part, can be loaded down in about maybe 2 minutes with what I need to make sure I get back home. And I train with this gear every month. I mean, I've trained with it for basically dang near 20 years, but I never stop training. At my level of training, there's always something new to learn. I'm not the world's most trained guy, don't need to train anymore. I still make sure I train. I go to the gym 6 to 7 times a week to make sure that I'm either hitting cardio, I'm working my core, I'm working my push, my pull, my grip strength. I'm at least there getting the blood flowing and doing my best to stay in shape and to stay in the right mindset. The worst thing that could happen to me is I fail my family in trying to defend them. God knows I have seen it. I have seen men try to fight off other men. And I have seen just how unskilled at fighting the average man is. I don't care how hardcore you are. I've met plenty of the bikers. I've met plenty of the gangbangers. I've met plenty of the lone wolf. I'll be gray man and take care of myself, tough guys. And I'm telling you, everyone's got a plan until you get hit. Mike Tyson said something that will ring true for the rest of my life. Everybody's got a plan until you get hit. Thank God for me, I got hit back when I was very, very young and joined the Marine Corps. And I learned a damn lesson that I will never forget for the rest of my life. And that's that I don't fight fair. I always fight to win. And I will fight you harder than you will ever fight me. And my job is to always make sure I go back home. What else happens from there? It's in God's hands, as everything is in this world. It's always in the Lord's hands. But that does not mean that you should not be reading your Bible, that you should not be at least outside walking. Push-ups are free. Sit-ups are free. Squats are free. Jumping a rope is free. I mean, you can get in shape and not waste a ton of money. You don't have to get all the supplements in the world to stay in shape. Just have a healthy diet and stay in some sort of a calisthenic shape. Being in shape gets you through most fights. Being in shape gets you in a better mindset of how to deal with things when they start to suck. If you'll let me speak as a Marine for a second, I'll speak to you in human terms. The worst thing that a man can do is be nothing but, and this is just me saying it, and you can gladly call me out on it. You can email me about it. Next time you see me, you can confront me. But if you're nothing but a cigarette smoking, beer chugging, all I do is I'll go to the range and I dump a magazine into a freaking a paper target, and I call that training. If my whole life is revolved around me, myself, and my hobbies, and I put my family last, I put my health last, I put my training last, and you're calling yourself a Christian, you need to reevaluate yourself. You need to reevaluate what actually matters to you. I'm not telling you anything that the FBI has not told you. I'm not telling you anything that the Pentagon hasn't came out and said, or that a lot of these former CIA targeting people haven't come out and said. We are all bracing for a impact of some sort of mass scale violence. Are you ready for it? Are you ready for the local, drunk to try and walk into you and get into a fight? Are you ready for the random person to come down the road swinging a knife or a freaking hatchet? What are you going to do about it? Hopefully you'll have the situational awareness, not have your headphones in, not have your head buried into your phone, and you'll see it coming. An article I read last week broke my dang heart. Here's a man and a woman. I believe they're traveling back to Mississippi or Alabama because that's where they're relocating from. And they're at a bus stop. Random dude walks up out of nowhere, hits the husband one time in the neck with a hatchet. It's 10 in the morning. This guy was drunk, and he made up every excuse for why he did it. The demons were talking to me, the voices in my head. I thought I was in danger. I don't know if that guy's still alive or not, but he'll never be the same. And his wife will most likely have to take care of him for the rest of their life. All I'm saying is, if you just look back and review all the active shooters that have happened, the mass stabbings that have happened, the bag drops, like what happened in Boston at the marathon bombing. Guys, it's coming. It's been happening. The cartel activity in America is at the highest frequency in terms of not just spreading narcotics, but terrorism, because that's what it is. Their violent crime is terrorism. It's at the highest that it's ever been. Currently, we're trying to pick a war on every single continent. All right. Nothing peaceful is happening. The Lord told you these things would happen. The Lord said, I will warn you that these things are going to happen so that you won't be caught off guard. I'll warn you that there will be a more or less fake church, fake Christians who think that they are doing God's will by chasing you down, by killing you, harming you, imprisoning you, tearing down everything you've ever built. These things are told to us that they're going to happen. The earthquakes in diverse places. Hey, West Coast, you ready for it? You ready for the big one? Trust me, nobody is. Nobody really is. Nobody takes this serious. That's why. It was one of the dang problems that I dealt with when being in the government. We always called it Operation Knee Jerk Reaction. Well, I guess we'll give everybody body armor after, a whole bunch of cops get shot. Well, I guess we should, probably start giving people more training now that people are being videotaped every time you do something. And it's catching our officers off guard. They don't know what to do. They're getting scared. They're panicking. I praise God that He put me on the path that I was on to learn the skills that I've learned so that I can help teach others. And that's all I can do, is just try to help teach people. Should you choose to do it, that's on you. Should you choose to try and get prepared, that's on you. But the Lord told you it happened. And I will tell you this, don't live in fear. The worst thing that you can do as a Christian is living in fear. Listen to Alex Jones 24/7. Then once he's done ranting and raving, you go to Fox News, then you go to this guy, then you go to this guy, then you go to this guy, then you get on Amazon and you type in Doomsday Prepper and you start buying everything that pops up on Amazon Prime. That's not the life you should be living. You should be living in the Spirit, living for Christ, ready to die for Christ, but ready to be Christ to anybody at any point in time. If your neighbor comes to you hungry, are you going to feed them? When the power goes out, how many times I've had this conversation with people? Man, the moment the power goes out, the apocalypse is on us, I ain't helping nobody. Well, I'll make sure I remember where you live, because I won't be there to help you either then. I've heard people who say, I won't prepare. And I have heard veterans say this. I don't need to prepare. I've got all the skills I need to go and take what I need. I'll just let people keep accumulating it. When the good guys think like this, I've heard cops say similar things. The moment everything breaks bad, we're hitting this Walmart, we're hitting the drugstore, we're hitting Academy, we're going to hit our own place, and then we're heading north to our own little exotic location, and that's going to be where we hang out until, Jesus returns. Well, hallelujah, brother. Me, when I put on that uniform every day, it meant something to me. When I put on that badge every day, I always had the same mindset, not to tarnish it, but to polish it, to be what we were expected to be, to serve the public. You don't have everybody who thinks the same way. And you don't have every civilian, to include those sitting next to you in church, who's thinking, yeah, the moment everything breaks bad, I'll bring all my stuff here to the church, and you bring your stuff and you bring yours, and we'll see who needs what. No, people are selfish. People all worried about themselves. They'll love to hear anything where you tell them something, well, God loves you and the spirit of peace is falling down on you. And they'll go to those revivals. They'll go to those churches. They'll go to the fake revivals that are happening. They want to play around in the rock and roll world of the next new apostolic church that's happening, the NAR churches. They don't want to hear hellfire and brimstone. Why don't you want to hear about sin? Why don't you want to hear about repentance? Why don't you want to hear about the way Jesus actually talked to people who were in trouble? I mean, are you willing to sit there and talk to a stranger? Most people aren't. Are you willing to sit there and talk to someone who's homeless? Hey, brother, how you doing? Is there anything I can get you? Anything I can do for you? Anything I can pray for you about? Most people don't do it. And the ones I'm talking to are Christians. Most of them don't do it. Perilous times are coming. You can't stop it. There's no stopping it. And with those perilous times, to go along with the great falling away, the great apostasia, falling away in the faith of Jesus, people are going to fall away from the love that they have for their fellow man, for their brother. I'm just speaking upon personal experiences. Never underestimate the depravity of man. The moment you think it couldn't get any worse, people will shock you. And most people are not ready for it. Most households, man, wife, they're not ready for it. Most are not ready for a violent home break-in. Most don't have a plan. Most of your churches don't have a plan. Most of the freaking places that you work at, unless it's something corporate and they're told they have to have something like that, most of them don't have a plan. Most of them don't they don't know their own fire plan. They don't know where their exits are. They don't know what an AED machine is. Most people don't carry guns, and the ones who do, maybe 2% actually train with it. I mean, it's going to be the biggest and ugliest wake-up call to this country when Day X happens. All I can tell you is just get ready. Just get ready. It's up to you. It shouldn't be an individual sport. The churches should be the biggest outreach for trying to help people. But look what happened during COVID. All the churches shut down. They all shut down. My wife and I, we've talked about this. The day that the Lord's ready to take us from here, put us in a church house, praise God, the day that happens, we ain't closing our doors. We'll bar them open, but we ain't closing them. Jesus never closed himself off to a person that was hurt or needing help. I just wonder, and I've said this before, when is it here in America and all the Western countries who they love their intellectualism, they love their philosophy and their comedy shows, they love their sports. When are you going to love your neighbor as you love yourself? When are you going to take being a Christian seriously? The Muslims take being a Muslim seriously. The Buddhists take being a Buddhist seriously. The Hindus take being a Hindu seriously. The atheists take being an atheist seriously. The Satanists are pretty serious about what they do. Cartel's pretty serious about what they do. Terrorists are pretty serious about what they do. Dictators around the world, they're pretty serious about what they do. But the most nonchalant, laissez-faire, well, if it happens group are Christians. Currently barreling down, I think, through the Midwest right now is another series of very severe thunderstorms. Here in Texas, I think it's already starting in Midland. Tornadic activities are expected again. We were under some pretty serious tornadic activity, last week? We were in the middle of 3 different supercells that were forming. And I mean, as I walked outside, the only thing I can do is rebuke the storm, cry out to Jesus about it. But I was bound and determined to the point that my wife came outside and said, "You're yelling too loud." As I was, quoting the Bible, reading the Bible and pointing at the storm, saying, "You're not going to come down here." People aren't ready for even a storm, right? So, that's what I'm saying. I'm trying to tell you, you have a limited amount of time. Unfortunately, you have every type of parasitic corporation or business that is waiting for you to feel the fear and to start panic buying. Don't panic buy. Be smart about what you're going to buy. Only get the things you actually are going to use. Don't buy a bunch of freaking technological stuff that isn't going to get used. I see this all the time. I've talked to people about it, and I've told them, some of the stuff that you sell that you say is military quality is probably some of the worst stuff I've ever seen, and I've never seen it in our military experience. From the gas masks to the flashlights to the backpacks to the this to the that. It's hokey gimmicks. The pros don't buy any of that stuff. All of our stuff is super expensive, right? You got to sacrifice a little bit to buy the stuff, and I get that. But don't buy trash gear. That's a huge pet peeve of mine. Don't buy trash gear. You're asking for problems because it's unreliable. It's untested. Don't let anyone deceive you. You still got this one guy out of Egypt who's going around saying that he is the Pope. He is the next Peter. He is the next Jesus Christ. He is the Mahdi. These people will start coming about more and more and more. My wife and I were talking about this guy, and he's not the Antichrist. The world will applaud the Antichrist. The majority of Christian churches will welcome the Antichrist. The world will welcome the Antichrist. Only you, sons and daughters of God, who are sealed in the forehead by the angels, sealed by God, you'll be the only ones who will know it, because you are repetitiously, with discipline, going to the Lord. You're in prayer. You're doing your spiritual warfare. You are doing your Bible study. You're out applying the tenets of Christ to anyone that you meet. It worries me. So many people will be caught off guard. And what did Jesus tell you? Don't be deceived. And yet people, they're welcoming the deception. They welcome the deception. One of the things my wife and I are going to be doing soon is we're going to be talking about this whole the new apostolic reformation movement of all these spiritualist churches. They're spiritualist churches. They're not churches of Christ. They are all about the esoteric, blending Christianity, blending this, blending that. It's the good feeling churches. That's what they are. And unfortunately, it's what a lot of young people go to. You know, well, I don't like going to the little 30-person Baptist church because, you know, the preacher yells the entire time and I don't like the singing. Well, I don't like going to the Church of Christ because for the most part, there is no spirit. It's dead inside, but they can harmonize really well. Pentecostals are still running up and down, slapping themselves in the face with pillows. The Catholics are still part of a cult, yet they don't know it. The world is so deceived. People idolize man. They idolize the church. They idolize the doctrine. They leave out Christ. And Christ warned you about this so much that the day you meet him, what's your excuse going to be? You won't have one. You won't find anywhere in any passage in Scripture. If you have, point it out to me. I would love to see it. Where, and make sure you use this one excuse when you see Jesus. You know what one of those excuses is? But Lord, didn't we do these things in your name? Didn't we do these things for you? What does he say? Turn away from me. No, you didn't. You didn't do it for me. You might have done it for another Christ, but the way you lived your life, the people you hung out with, the rotten fruit that hang off your branches, you are not part of me. The moment the stranger called, you left my flock and you went to him. My flock, they know the shepherd's voice. They know not to leave. They know not to be in fear. They know to keep the faith. Where are you at right now in your walk? Are you living in fear or are you keeping the faith? No matter what, keep your eyes on the cross. Keep your heart connected to Jesus. Love your neighbor as you love yourself. Love your enemies. Be ready to die for Christ and be ready to live for him. That's all I got. Anything else interesting happens around the world, we'll come right back out and tell you. Guys, thank you so much for showing up. If I didn't get to any of your questions, please put it in the comment section below. My wife will have a thing there. If you got prayer requests, praise report, we always like to hear about the things that God is doing in your life. If you want to find out how to support us, because I know that's a huge question that apparently I don't answer very much, that's all going to be in the description. Once you see this video, click description, you'll see all that information. Our training information for Vindicta Solutions is vindictasolutions.com. If you feel the need to go to that, please go to it. For all you women that are out there, especially if you're single, we have a all-female course that's at the end of September where we're going to put you through a gambit of things. We've already got baby dolls picked out that you're going to have to pick up and use. They're going to be crying and whining, and you're going to have to fight your way out of a house while someone's trying to get to you, and you got to rescue the baby. So we're already thinking about you, the numerous different types of ways we can throw a monkey wrench at you just to get you to think, if this ever happens, I've been here before. I know what to do, and I know not to freak out and not to let fear set in. All right, guys, that's all I got. We love you guys. We're praying for y'all. Please keep us in your prayers, and we'll see you next time. Stay frosty.